Shawn King, Legacy, Life, and Retirement. We're going to dive into his story a little bit and welcome you to the newest coach here at the Cash Compound. Ladies and gents, welcome on this episode of the Cash Compound podcast. And for those of you on YouTube watching us, go ahead and click the bell. School's in session and subscribe there. Thank you for being a part of our community, and our community on the internal side is expanding in this episode. Looking forward to having a conversation here, a cash conversation, as we always call them, with Shawn King of Legacy, Life, and Retirement, who is now our newest official Cash Compound coach. So Shawn, so happy to have you as a part of our team. We're going to dive into your story here, and I'd like you to take a little time to introduce yourself to everybody. You saw us in a lot of the same places and spaces that people are watching right now, and we have some similarities in our background around fun, freedom, and fulfillment, if you remember those three F words out there, man. But so happy to have you and your family on board, man, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, man. I greatly appreciate being here with you guys. You've been extremely gracious and very, very helpful along my journey so far. So a little bit about myself. Again, like JDew said, my name is Shawn King. I am currently married. I have a little boy as well. So I'm in the thick of it. He turns 9 months on the 11th of October. So, it's really, really getting exciting right now. So a whole new phase of my life. But before that, I'm originally from California, grew up the majority of my life in Arizona, went and played my Division I college basketball out in Chicago, did quite a bit of traveling throughout the country, and then did quite a bit of traveling throughout the world. I've traveled to about 40 different countries thus far. I'm currently 32 years old, be turning 33 in March, and really feel like I'm just coming into my groove right now, my money-making time. I know the majority of people make the majority of their income later in life as they mature and they learn more and, start to add to their repertoire of cash flowing assets. And I think I'm really starting to step into that phase of my life a little bit earlier than most. And I think what we're doing here is really allowing me that strong foundation to take on a lot of these really cool things that we're getting into. So
I love it, man.
And all of this stuff. So let's get into it.
Yeah, man. Let's have a conversation first about how you grew up around money. So in our family, as many people have heard on this podcast, it wasn't a big conversational topic at all. So when we're now talking about people's legacy, we're talking about retirement, we're talking about this banking idea and concept. Where did that all stem from you? Were they conversations you grew up around, or is it something you came into when you became an adult?
Yeah, so of course you say in your stuff like money was kind of a taboo thing. It wasn't so much taboo in my family. I had both my parents had pretty good jobs. So they made, we were middle average income, family. So got to do a lot of fun things that we wanted to do. That, of course, was before the 2008 recession, where that kind of screwed over a lot of people. But as far as growing up, money conversations, that type of stuff, there wasn't, we didn't sit at the table and discuss how we were going to invest our money or anything like that. I did get an allowance growing up for doing work around the house, doing chores. So I did learn how to bring some money in for doing work and really, just kind of send that money back out. I think I started a savings account pretty young, but let's be honest, I was probably buying toys and doing other things instead of putting that money away to work for me. But, it wasn't much of an educational topic that we talked about. Like I said, my parents made pretty decent money, but they weren't sitting around telling me to read these books and educate myself about this stuff. So I didn't learn much from it. Now, I did take one class when I was about to graduate high school, my senior year. They offered a Dave Ramsey class. We had a booklet that kind of taught us about savings and other things like that. And it laid out some pretty cool looking numbers. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can essentially just save my way to having, a substantial amount of wealth based on what they're showing me here. So that was kind of really my first intro to learning about like, oh, doing some of the right things with money as far as putting it away.
So now I've got to wonder, as you finish school and you go play Division 1 ball, I'm assuming there were some scholarships involved here. So I went to school and paid for it. Lots of people come out of school with school debt, and that's one of the things hanging over people's heads in the Dave Ramsey conversational community. So tell me how you kind of transitioned into college and what that experience was like financially.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to get a full ride scholarship to what was a very expensive school. Uh, and so I didn't you never when you play a sport, you never don't pay for anything. I mean, I was good, but I wasn't good enough where they were putting money in my pocket under the table back then. So there were other expenses that I had to come up with, small little loans that you would get from whoever it was, Sally Mae, Fannie Mac, uh, Fast, all that type of stuff that I'd get some extra cash for. And at that time, I was looking into starting my own clothing line. So I was juggling a few different things at that time. But really, I ended up getting some debt from, I want to do some extra stuff here. They never feed you enough no matter what. So, and I'm, growing boy back then. So I need some extra cash on hand to go out and purchase the things that I needed to get. So I did end up taking out some school loans, and then I didn't stay at that school forever. I ended up having some injuries and transferring out and just finishing back up in state tuition, which I had to pay for back in Arizona, finished and graduated from Arizona State University. And I decided to graduate from there because I could get in state tuition because the cost of me paying for my school was going to be hefty. So I had to take out a little bit of school loans for that as well.
So now transition to after school. What did that look like for you? Tell me about these loans. What type of degree did you get, and where did you end up landing after the graduation?
Yeah, so I got my my degree sitting right behind me there. Very very useful. I got my degree in business management and communications, which kind of crazy. I guess I'm kind of using it right now. And I was at that time when I was graduating, I was working in the bar scene. I was bartending down at one of the local bars. And I mean, again, I graduated from Arizona State. If anybody knows anything about Arizona State, it's not that they're great in education. They do have some great programs, but they're known for partying. So I was down in the bar scene working that and making some decent money, was able to take a lot of that money and go and do the things that I wanted to do, which my focus at that time was traveling. So that allowed me to travel all these places. And as far as the student loans go, hey man, they let you kick that can down the road. It was out of sight, out of mind. I wasn't concerning myself with paying those right now, not with the money that I was making. I wanted to go live my life and enjoy myself. And when it came time to cross that bridge, I figured, you know what? I'll figure it out at that point. I just assume I'm going to be better off when that time comes than I am right now. So, you know, just like deferring my your general 401k, I was just like, well, kick it down the road. I'll figure it out when the time comes. And so that's stuff I'm dealing with right now, or just kind of dealt with right now, many years later. But yeah, man, I took my money and I just went and did the things I wanted to do with it. It wasn't so much, again, at that time about focusing on how I could make my money grow for me. I didn't do too much more into the educational realm of learning about money. I was doing a little bit more about personal development, which is why I decided to go and do a lot of the traveling, because I kind of wanted to find myself a little bit, find more of my purpose, and just kind of figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I knew I wasn't going to be in the bar scene forever. So I decided, you know what, let's just go travel, take this money that I've made and go have some fun with it.
Okay, so where'd you go? Tell me some of your highlight trip experiences out there.
Oh man, I've gone everywhere. Iceland, England, Amsterdam, Spain, Greece, Croatia, Portugal, all over Southeast Asia. Um, I mean, like I said, 40, about 40 countries. So I backpacked 6 months through Southeast Asia. I've taken motorbikes through the mountains alone, 3,000 mile trips. I've done a lot of stuff. I've gone to Angkor Wat in Cambodia, been to the Eiffel Tower, been through the Swiss Alps, done just a lot of stuff. And again, people are real surprised when I would tell them I'm going to go do this stuff. They're like, "You're so lucky that you get to go and live this life." It's like, dude, I definitely don't make more money than the average person I would come across. At that time, I just made it a priority to go and do some of this stuff. I rented a sleeper van with my wife, who, I got married. I've been with my wife about six years now, and we rented a sleeper van and just drove in the winter, drove all throughout Iceland, checking out some incredible places, going to the hot springs, doing all this stuff because I was all about creating memories. One of the ways that we kind of go back, which we didn't know each other at the time, but we were in a company where we used to be able to do some really cool things as far as traveling, and so that really implanted that in me. And I'm like, I'm the memories guy. Like, I'm gonna do what I want to do right now, and I'll figure the rest out later. And I'm extremely grateful for that because it introduced me to a lot of cool people. It allowed me to create a lot of cool experiences. And now with a child, things are a little bit different, but I'm one of those people that, you know, my kid lives with us. We do all the stuff that we still want to do when he comes along for the ride, and we're going to teach him how to live that lifestyle as well.
Transition now to what's going on in this financial space. A guy who seems like a bartending nomad out there,
Hmm.
who's in sleeper vans in Iceland for a couple weeks here and Angkor Wat, at a different time, doesn't seem like he's the guy I'm going to take financial advice from. So at what point did you start to get serious and you said, you know what? I'm not going to kick the can down the road anymore. There's some things to address in my life now. And how did you make that transition? Or was it natural for you? Or you said, I should stop doing some of those things and get serious about my money or even teach it to other people?
Yeah. So after a lot of my traveling, again, I still travel. I'm going to be heading to Europe here in a couple, at the end of November. But I got to the point where I'm like, all right, I need to find, if my wife and I want to start a family, I need to find something that's going to allow me to create some stability in my work life. And so I started looking at some things that I could do from home because my thought pattern was I want to be around my wife and my child as much as possible when that child does come into the world. So if I can get an at home job, that would be fantastic. So I started looking online, and the two main things I saw was number one, computer-based stuff, technology stuff, and I'm like, "Oof, that's over my head, son. I don't know nothing about nothing when it comes to that. I can post on my social media, but I can't do much more than that." And then the other thing was insurance, a bunch of different types of insurance, property and casualty, life insurance. I'm like, "All right, so I could potentially go down this insurance lane. I believe in, protecting your family. Not that I had life insurance at that time, but I'm like, I get the idea of protecting the people that you love. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to go and get my license. I'm going to take that stupid test that you got to take, and I'm going to get into this field. So I ended up knowing some buddies that were already at a company, and I partnered up with them in that company, and just started learning a lot about basic life insurance, term, final expense, that type of stuff, and realized like, hey, this is an incredible way to pass wealth on, to your next generation. You're telling me that I can give a company a little bit of money, and they're going to give my family a whole lot of money if something happens to me, so I can pay to leave a legacy. And I'm like, all right, I like the sound of that. And then I started learning about some other types of products out there. Um, at the beginning, I was, heavily focused on the index universal life policy and using that for retirement instead of putting your money into the market and having it be at complete risk. I was like, all right, this is a pretty cool thing. I didn't know much about cash value life insurance. And then as time transitioned, I started to learn a little bit more about whole life. That was not something that my company preached a whole lot about at that time outside of final expense, taking care of some of those smaller things. So throughout this entire process, I'm reading books, I'm educating myself, I'm starting to think a little bit more about what the people with money are doing and how they're able to create more money for themselves. And so I kind of fall into this. At my company, we had something that we called advanced markets, and that was talking about annuities and index universal life policies and infinite banking. And they had a minimal amount of knowledge on the infinite banking side of things, but it really caught my eye. And so I was suggested to read this book, Becoming Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to read this. So I got it. and I started reading through it, and I didn't really understand it a whole lot. Again, some of that information went over my head, but I got the general idea of what the concept was of kind of taking back some of that control and creating wealth. And I'm like, okay, there's something here. And so at that point in time, I'd been a couple years into the life insurance game. I was on social media. I was, promoting myself to try and help people out. I think I came across some information, some videos of you and your brother, and I'd seen many people in the space, looking up infinite banking, just trying to find out more information on social media, on YouTube, and all that stuff. And again, your guys' stuff came across my page, and I just felt like I really related with the message that you guys were promoting. I'm gonna be honest. I like the fact that you guys look different than the majority of the people in the space. I myself am mixed, so I was like, all right, I know insurance is an old white man's business. It's just what it is. I like seeing some other people, especially family, brothers, that are doing something different in the space, who look different, that are probably reaching a different clientele. I like the message that they have. They seem genuine and real. I'm going to reach out to them and see if, I'm in this transitional period in my life. I was looking to do something else. So I reached out and I'm like, hey, I like what you guys are doing. Can I chat with you? I think it was from a client standpoint first, where I was like, hey, I have a policy. I want to talk to you guys about how I could potentially do this better. And then that whole, I'm actually looking to team up with you guys thing kind of came about.
I love it, man. So many things to unpack in there. Let's go one at a time. One of it is, what type of success or failure did you see when you got into the life insurance space? When you're in the insurance space, lots of people fail.
Yeah.
They quit, they give up, they don't know how to sell, they don't want to buy the lead. Tell us what your model was, how long you were doing it, and money that you made. How'd you go about doing it? Did you feel successful there?
Yeah, so it is a high turnover business, and that was one thing that I didn't particularly like about a lot of the companies, the IMOs out there, was it was just kind of shuffle the people in. Let's see who can last, and then let's get some new people in. And a lot of it was around building teams, building an agency, and not saying that it wasn't about helping the people, but again, there was a lot of building an agency. And I'm like, okay, well, my focus is helping the people. I want to have impact. I want to make sure that I'm affecting these people that I'm building these relationships with. So I had, I don't want to say I have a reasonable amount of influence in my circle, but people people definitely didn't know me as the money guy before. They knew me as the travel guy, but they knew that I was living a lifestyle that was uncommon from other people. And so I probably had some things that were going at least decently right in my life. So getting into the insurance industry, their whole model was, hey, buy leads. You buy leads, you contact these people that have shown some sort of interest at some point in time in getting insurance. And so was doing that. And me personally, I had a pretty reasonable amount of success, but I saw a lot of people come in that fizzled out real quick because they just couldn't figure it out. You were spending money on these leads to talk to people who said that they were interested, or they said that they were interested in life insurance. And again, you come across some people, and I helped a lot of awesome people. I was able to educate a whole lot of people. My process was always a little bit slower because I always led with education. I need to understand what you wanted, your position, what you were looking to try and accomplish. And then whether you needed life insurance or not, I was going to make sure I told you where you stood. If you needed this much, I thought you needed more, if I thought you needed less, I wanted to make sure that I was doing right by the client. And so the process always took a little bit longer for me, but I did pretty well. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I outlasted a whole lot of people. I saw a lot of people come and go, and I made pretty decent money, but my overhead was really high because I was purchasing leads all the time, and it wasn't a sustainable system. And that's why I was kind of looking to get out and also focus more into something that I was really passionate about as far as infinite banking goes, something that I felt like could really change people's lives, but still provide them with that protection that they know that they needed for their families.
Now, the IUL, you brought that up, indexed universal life insurance, very popular in the IMO space, on social media as well, but
It
not
is.
a product that we teach, preach, or focus on around here. So help me understand how you came to know the differences between the permanent products, universal life insurance and whole life insurance. What was that kind of coming of knowledge for you?
Yeah, so I'm along the same lines of thinking that you guys are. It's very weird that it's categorized as permanent life insurance because it does have the ability to end. Now, I like to be as transparent with people as possible. I have an IUL. My wife has an IUL. My son has an IUL. That's that first product that I really started studying and learning about when I got into my IMO, because that's more of what they promoted. So I learned a lot about that, and I realized, hey, this is a great product to help save for retirement. It was a better vehicle, I believe, than your 401k because there was much lower risk. Now, it didn't mean that it didn't come with other risk involved. There were things that, you know, we talk guarantees here, and there weren't guarantees in that product, but there were safety measures that would keep you from losing all of your money potentially, like you would in the market, in a matter of, a bad week or something like that. So I saw that as my first intro to cash value life insurance. I thought, holy smokes, this is incredible. I can, instead of putting my money into this qualified plan, I could put it over here. It's going to do multiple things for me. We always talked about your dollar doing more than one job for you. And if you can make your dollar do more than one job, then you're working in the right direction. So I saw that it was giving you living benefits. It was giving you death benefit. You had the ability to grow cash value and loan from it, all of these things. So in my eyes, I studied a lot about that stuff, and I became very familiar. And I thought, oh, this is a great product to start sharing with people. And then that next step came where I'm like, all right, well, what about this infinite banking? How do these two things relate? I quickly realized there is a big gap between the two products. I think the IUL really lands at that middle position. If I'm looking to put money in something that's not my 401k that I don't want to touch, because people promote it all the time online for infinite banking, I do not believe that it should be used for infinite banking because there is a lot of risk that comes with that. But I do believe that's a great product to put money in, set it, forget it, maybe check on it with your agent every once in a while to make sure things are going right, because it does have the potential to grow higher than or faster than your infinite banking policy, but they're completely separate things. Your brother always says it's like comparing Netflix and Hulu. If I can only get one show on Hulu, why in the world am I looking at Netflix? I need to go to this thing to get this type of show. So same thing with the whole life. It was like, hey, I see what the value is here. I see the differences. I see the guarantees. And I'm not sure about you, JDew, but I am not a gambling man. I could count as many times on, one hand that I've gambled in my entire life. I like certainty. I like guarantees. And the more I learned about the IUL, the more I realized, okay, it's a cool vehicle for a certain person, but I think everybody could benefit from participating whole life. I think everybody could benefit from more control over their system, more liquidity in their lives. A lot of these things that provided guarantees, all of this stuff that the IUL just couldn't guarantee you. So I still believe in both, but I am a strong proponent of the foundational piece of your wealth building should be your infinite banking policy, your participating whole life policy.
Love to hear it, man. And I, too, do not gamble. I spend very little time. I'm same with you. I've put approximately $40 total in my life into some sort of gambling operation, whether it be in a casino or something like that, or something with my friend. It's just not my thing. Yeah. And I like to have guarantees so I can take risk on the right things for me. And so that's why whole life insurance makes sense. And I just feel like I can think about whole life insurance most days because it allows me the ability to go get involved in the right things. I'm not looking to score home runs all the time with money that I need. There's money that I need to keep. So let me make sure that I start there. I love that. Now, your agency that you started in your brand here at the Cash Compound is legacy, life, and retirement. So some of your focus is also on what Nelson Nash would call passive income time. Mm-hmm. Passive income is what the majority of the Western world would call retirement. So passive income time might include annuities, for instance. Tell me your coming of age and knowledge of annuities and what that means to the average person and how you talk about it, even at 32 years old.
Yeah, so I think annuities, just like a lot of different life insurance products, are very misunderstood. There's bad history behind a lot of stuff because you have things like variable annuities where things were tied to the market and you had the ability to lose money. And so a lot of older people that might have partaken in those type of things before got a bad taste in their mouth when it came to these type of things. So when you bring that up, just like when you bring up life insurance or whole life insurance, people are like, oh my gosh, no, don't talk to me about this. But what people don't understand is they're already participating in the country's largest annuity program, which is Social Security. All we're talking about here is putting money away into a vehicle that's going to guarantee you a lifetime income. I'm pretty sure it's the only vehicle in the market that can guarantee you a lifetime income no matter what. You will never run out of money no matter what. And so I started to, the same time that I started learning about the infinite banking stuff, when I transitioned from the IUL and was trying to find the next step above that, the better thing, I came across the annuity stuff because I was meeting a lot of clients who had a lot of money in their retirement, either dead 401ks, IRAs, different type of qualified plans that were at old jobs that were just kind of sitting around, and they're like, hey, I see this losing money here or there, or we just had a dip in the market or whatever it may be, or I'm not super happy with the way things are going at my current job with the plan that they have me in. What are my options? Is there anything that you guys can do for me? And so I started educating myself more and more about the annuity space and found out that, a lot of people promote it to be something so much more than it potentially is. And in all reality, it's just, again, another place to warehouse your wealth that can provide you with guarantees that you can build, uh, you know, a certain amount of income off of. So you can structure them the way that you're like, hey, I need $3,000 a month when I retire. All right, well, we can set you up with something and let you know how much money you need to put in this vehicle to guarantee you that $3,000 a month. When you retire, no questions asked, it'll be there for the rest of your life. No ifs, ands, buts about it. So I like that guarantee of the contract. I like that it does have the ability, a lot of them, depending on what type you get in, because unlike participating whole life, there's a bit more variety in terms of the product that you go with. But there's some that focus a little bit more on growth. There's some that you can continually put money into. There's some that are one lump sum payments. There's some that focus more specifically on long-term care and different things like that. So I just realized that infinite banking was a great participating whole life was a great tool to utilize for your now, your living, your these moments, your financing and things of your daily life. um, and again, it was going to provide you with a lot of value down the road, even more value. But I also knew if people had money somewhere that they needed to do a kind of a lateral movement and wanted to get that money into something. Maybe they were older and they didn't have all the time necessary to do some of the growth that you would get from infinite banking that was really going to be beneficial. They could get that money into a system that could grow in general between 4 and 6% for them on a regular basis, and then provide them with that guaranteed income. So you could really kill two birds with one stone. You could take care of your now with infinite banking and financing the needs of your daily life, and you could take care of your future with the guarantees of building yourself a pension or a secondary social security, because we know pensions are disappearing very quickly. And we know social security, I mean, they state it right on the website that by 2035, they're going to be cutting that thing by about 20% if things don't change. And if those things do change, that just means higher taxes. So
That's a good point to say, and remind people that higher taxes or increased inflation is what the government has to do to manipulate that system for the average American. So 32 years old, man, you've got a young family, your son is about to turn 1, and you're talking about the long term. You're talking about retirement. You're talking about legacy plays. And so I have to ask you this. When a lot of people get into insurance for sales in an IMO, an independent marketing organization, or a field marketing organization, they are thinking, well, everyone needs insurance.
mhm.
Everyone should buy this. Everyone is going to benefit from insurance. But I have a feeling that the things about you, how you think, and what you're talking about don't appeal to everyone, actually. So, who is your market? Who are you talking to? Who makes sense to partner up with when you're talking about the cash compound, infinite banking, legacy life and retirement? Who are you actually working with, man? It can't be everybody. And I think a lot of people assume that these sales guys like you and I are coming for everyone.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, Sure, ideally, I would like it to be everyone, but everyone is not qualified to become their own bank, man. Everyone should be qualified to get life insurance, like it outside of health and everything like that. Like you should, if you have anyone in your life that you care about, or people that would have to take care of your expenses if you were gone, the cost of you dying, because dying is not free. I just want to let you guys know that you should have something in place. So I'm a strong believer of first getting something in place, something permanent. I do believe in term to an extent, but I believe getting something permanent that your family knows that, hey, at least we're going to be able to bury or burn this person if you're into that. Um, having that in place is extremely important. But as far as my target market, I'm always looking for people who are willing to think outside of the box, because what we're doing, even though it's an extremely old way of doing things, people are very hesitant to do something different that they haven't heard about. And man, that's a whole nother podcast episode to go into why people haven't heard about this and why, the government, the banks, whoever it may be, have been keeping such valuable knowledge from people. Because I believe that everybody, the higher up people need to keep their thumb on the general population so they can control what's going on. Because if everybody became financially capable and free and stable, then there would be a whole lot of other problems that they would feel in their pockets and whatnot. But outside the point, we're looking for people that are just kind of thinking differently. People who are kind of tired of doing the same old things and getting the same old results. The people that see their parents or maybe their grandparents um, get to the point where they're going into retirement and they have on average $200,000 to $300,000 in their retirement, and the average person entering into retirement is needing $70,000 to $80,000 a year to live, and they're just like, I'm not that great at math, but if we look at $200,000 to $300,000 and then $80,000 a year, you're going to be out of money in 2.5, 3 years. Like this is not adding up here. So I'm looking for, entrepreneurs, small business owners, people who really, again, just are okay with rethinking their thinking. I like people who read. I like people who are open minded and want to learn, because that's where we're going to come from. We're going to come from a point of education first. We want to make sure that you're getting educated. I tell people all the time, and we just talk about this on my other podcast, is when you get into your qualified plan, your retirement plan, whatever it may be, does your job, does your financial advisor, do any of these people sit down with you and tell you, hey, before we do anything, watch this video and educate yourself, or read this book or read these couple books? Like, let's get you educated on what's going on here. No, they want you to be out of sight, out of mind. They don't want you knowing what's going on. So they just say, hey, you know what? Let's just automatically enroll you into this program, or let's just do this. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. Nobody cares about your money more than you care about your money. So I'm looking for people who care more about their money than the average Joe that's just willing to give it to somebody else and say, hey, you take care of it. I know it's my retirement, but I hope when the time comes that you'll have taken great care of me and my family and we'll be good to go. No worries, no questions asked.
Okay, man. Well, we're excited to have you as a part of our team. You're already been an asset just in the summer of 2024. As we move into the fall, we're excited here. So as we record this, man, welcome to the show. And you've got a lot of things that you are already producing. We're talking about getting better and doing more in those areas. So where can we find your stuff? And what do you specialize in around here? So when we look at you, what are we going to see and where do we find all that?
Yeah, so first of all, I am based out of the Pensacola, Florida area. We like to call that Lower Alabama. So if you're in that general area, if you're in that key part of the South, let's definitely connect. But you can find my website. A lot of my information is on my website, legacylifeandretirement.com. Same thing on my socials, Legacy Life and Retirement on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok. And really, it's just providing educational content. Just like we talked about a minute ago, we lead with education. I'm going to be suggesting that you read certain books. I'm going to be suggesting that you look into things yourself, because I'm a strong believer of you having a strong foundational understanding of what's going on. And then if I teach you enough, if I educate you enough, you'll know what the right thing to do is. So go ahead, check me out on all my social medias. Again, YouTube, I'm putting out information, education all the time. It's Legacy Life and Retirement and all that stuff. And really reach out. ask questions. I love to answer questions. I love to help you learn what you feel like you need to know to get to where you want to go. And that was a little rhyme for you there, JDew,
My
because
man. My man.
Baptist background.
There you go. All right, man. Shawn, so happy to have you on this podcast here in this episode today. Ladies and gentlemen, you got to check him out where he's at. And we're moving forward together in a big way. If you feel that you relate to Shawn as a coach and you want to have that conversation with him about your cash and your cash flow, that's what we're doing around here. Code cracking cash flow. And that cash consultation around here is always free with one of our coaches as you connect and figure out how you want to move forward in your life, just like he was saying. So, Shawn, thanks for being here, man. And I look forward to a big future with you.
I greatly appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you guys a few days in Tennessee, man.
Gave a lot of game, we never got a lot of things. Bow your head and say the prayer, we taught you how to be the bank.